Welcome to the Leadership Lessons Show. Brad, it's good to have you here.
Mate.
Caleb Nicholes, Bradley Smith. So we're going to talk a bunch of stuff today. We're going to start off with ANZAC Day, which happened a couple of days ago. Talk a bit about faith, deconstruction. Brad's got a segment, which who knows what's going to happen in that segment.
Buckle up.
And we'll talk a little bit about prayer. We're doing a prayer series at church lately, and finish off with talking about sleep. I've transformed my sleep habits this year, so we're going to hear about that and how Brad sleeps. Who knows?
Sounds entertaining.
That
Hang on for that one.
But go to calebnicholes.com.au for more information, and please like and share on any socials, and ask us any questions. We love that, don't we, Brad?
We love it.
We love to hear topic suggestions as well.
That really helps.
That would be cool.
You sound like a real YouTuber now. So
Yeah.
like, share, hit the bell.
Yeah, hit the bell. That's true. I forgot that one. So. Anyway, welcome to you, Brad. How are you, mate?
I'm good. Thanks for having me. It's good to be back on deck.
It is good to be back
saddle.
on deck. This is a bit of a new format.
Yeah.
We could talk all day, but we're going to try and be a bit quicker.
Well, you'll notice a bit of paper. This is an innovation
Yes.
for the show this year. We've got a bit of paper with suggested timelines.
That's exactly right. We'll see how we go.
If you were still here in 2 hours,
That's
then
right.
you'll know.
So first of all, I wanted to talk about ANZAC Day. A couple of days ago, I took my 3 out of my 4 kids. We went to the local one in Casey here, which was really good. There was a few hundred people there, and it was great. We went to the dawn service.
Yeah.
Did you go anywhere or do anything?
Well, you put me on the spot there.
Sorry, mate.
We had family breakfast.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Gunshot. What do they call it? Gunfire breakfast.
Yeah.
It was really good. But the thing that struck me this year, Brad, was just the courage.
Yeah.
Courage is one of the ANZAC values, and it just got me really thinking about courage. And courage is a little bit crazy, but it's not courage in the stupid sense, like jump off something stupid, like probably a lot of stuff you've done, ride stupid speeds on your motorbike. But the courage to face adversity, to be brave, to do what you don't want to do. You're thinking 16, 17-year-olds, signing up, lying about their age. A couple of years ago, just before COVID hit, I had the pleasure of going to Gallipoli.
That'd be amazing.
ANZAC Cove, walked on the beach. But I was in tears because you read some of the tombstones and just these young people. And often John, is it 15:11 is quoted about, greater love has no man than this, to lay down his life for a friend. It always makes me emotional, just the courage of the ANZAC. So,
full on.
Any thoughts on that?
Oh, well, yeah, I kind of had reflection. We actually drove. We had a lot of driving over ANZAC Day, and same sort of reflection. Like I haven't been faced with a moment that really can comprehend in that aspect, that you may lose your life, but the concept and reflecting on what's been laid down before us really humbles you. So
it really does humble you. It really does. And to think at that time, so many, like our country in the First World War, we only had about 2 million people.
It's such a huge percentage.
Thousands went and died.
Yeah, and to think of their conviction, that's the bit that I reflected on. Like if my government said today, we're going to Ukraine, that to be confronted with a thought like that, I'm not, as we stand now, I've got so much to lose. I've got an amazing daughter and wife and life, and that'll be very hard.
The individualism of the modern person, it would be interesting to see. So I've thought that as well. Interesting to see if there was a call to war and just how individualistic we are now and concerned with our own rights.
Yeah.
If people would have that courage, because that's what courage is. It's to do something you don't want to do. It's to step into the void when no one else wants to go. It's to go at 18, 19 to a battlefield on the other side of the world, get killed on the first day, get forgotten to history, but you paid the price for freedom.
Yeah, it's incredible. And I think about just the amount of average Aussies, like normal Aussie people, no one who's like, it's an Aussie culture thing. Like everyone thinks about ANZAC Day, and just the humility that's in the hearts of the average Aussie. And we often overlook that because of the individualism and how we have these rights and we're all very well off. Like we overlook that there actually is a bit of humility in that we're humble for what's been put before us. I think that's pretty special as a country.
Definitely. Well, I'm going to kick to the podcast next. So the latest podcast that we put up was with Dan Paterson.
Yeah.
You've met Dan before, haven't you?
Yeah, he's a legend. I was he came about 2 years ago. He spoke. I think he did about 3 sessions and we loved it. I still got notes in here.
Yeah.
Really unpacked a lot of stuff.
Well, Dan's an expert on apologetics, I suppose, and a bit of a cultural commentator, especially the Christian worldview. And we just released a podcast with him. But on the podcast, he spoke about deconstructing faith.
Yeah.
So we might kick to that now, and then when we come back, let's have a little chat about that.
Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a lot of parts to that question. I think you're just putting your finger on a lot of data points of what's happening broadly in kind of Christian culture. And you've got high-profile leaders who are walking away from the faith. You've got sort of famous musicians who say that I've got questions that don't seem to be answered in my tradition, at least. And so that's concerning. And so this deconstruction of pulling down the edifice of a person's beliefs to get back to what foundation does it really rest on? And so I'm not necessarily against deconstruction. I think there are a lot of unhelpful beliefs that aren't biblical. At best, they're extra biblical, if not heretical or unhelpful, that are built up within different Christian traditions or subcultures that maybe we do need to peel back and reassess. And it's an opportunity to say, upon which foundation is your hope built? Is it in this church or this denomination or in this particular leader, or is it built up on the sure foundation of the life, death, burial, and resurrection of Jesus Christ?
Yeah, it's a really interesting podcast. I think that to hear a Christian leader or a pastor like yourself talk about deconstructing faith sounds counterintuitive.
Sounds kind of wrong. Yeah,
I think it's good.
Yeah, so deconstruction is an interesting thing. It's a word that's thrown around a lot now. Obviously, we've got the deconstructed. For millennials, we have deconstructed coffee, deconstructed bacon and eggs. Yeah. My children tend to deconstruct their dinner every night. So it's that kind of idea of pulling apart.
Yeah.
You've built a faith or a belief system, and then you hit this point in life where you pull it apart. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Is that good or bad? Is it helpful or not?
Yeah, so. And I think as well, is that what's being pushed by the church? That's a big thing for me, especially someone who didn't grow up a Christian. I would think that the church was trying to overlook all these extra stuff that helps and makes you look like a Christian. Where he's saying, let's scale it all back, even things like your worship style, your leadership styles, and let's deconstruct back to the core, which...
Like he says at the end there, doesn't he? Like, what's your faith really built on, which is the key. So I talk to a lot of people about deconstruction, and I've hit times in my life where maybe you would say I've deconstructed my faith a little bit. But I always say to people, if you're deconstructing, as in pulling down or pulling apart, it's got to be with the intention to build, the intention to become more, what we call in Christian world, more mature in my faith.
Yeah.
To actually know God better, to move forward with my faith.
Yeah.
I think when it's deconstruction for criticism or to justify that I don't need to follow or don't need to believe, or to trip over peripheral things and go, oh, well, this peripheral belief system or worship style or pastor said this, or I saw a Christian do that. It's like, yeah, like they're peripheral things. Like you can't just throw the baby out with the bathwater, so to speak. So I think that's a bit where the problem is that I see is deconstruction becomes the right to not obey God or not to believe, rather than deconstruction becoming, I want to actually grow more. But maybe I've got some of these side peripheral things at the centre and some of the things that should be at the centre are not. So it's actually almost remodelling, renewing. My walk with God.
Which is actually totally normal. Like when I first started coming to Christ, I had to do deconstruction of my normal, like the way I looked at the world, things that I had faith in, and I had a good life and good stuff happening, but I got confronted with some big questions when I met Christ, and I had to deconstruct a lot of my thought patterns and allow those to be cut back to the core. And that's one of the things that I found probably most freeing as I came to Christ, is that we're free to do that. You're free to question, you're free to cut right back to what bits are remaining and what's the foundation. I came into a church with great worship, great leaders, everything was great on the outside, but we had to get back to what's the what's the base, what's the foundation.
So is there anything for you now that you're doubting or looking at or weighing up?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's a big podcast question. But for sure, as a Christian, I think that's a daily walk for me.
Yeah.
I'm daily deconstructing.
But anything specific? I have put you on the spot.
You have put me on. I think one of the big things for me is that my faith has become very personal. So I'm deconstructing what bits of faith tastes good because it is the presence of God versus what bits of my faith have been like good things have happened. You know, work, winning, things like that. And cutting back to, is something good because just of a season or because that's Christ? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I've had a lot of failure.
So learning to split between what's really God and what's just stuff.
Just good.
Yeah.
And I've had a lot of failure. Well, I've had a very colourful career work-wise. So I've had a lot of failure, a lot of success. So it's caused me to really constantly question which bit was God and which bit was just cause and effect.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. I think for me at the moment is probably around Pentecostalism. So he spoke about worship traditions, and our tradition is more what you consider Pentecostal or charismatic. I think that's been a real deconstruction process the last few years. I'm definitely not interested in throwing the baby out the bathwater, or I think reacting to something is not healthy because then you just you swing out the other way, and you're like that kid that grows up that doesn't like his parents, are like, just do everything different to my parents, and it's like, but you miss the good.
Yeah.
So it's not that, but it's just going, oh man, a bit like you, I suppose you're saying is like as you grow and mature, separating. Well, what was just our worship tradition, the Pentecostal style, but what's really like biblical and core.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with the style. It's like a method.
Yeah.
But what's the mission, the message, the core beliefs? I think that's what's important. And again, I find when I talk to people who are in that deconstruction process, often they're tripping over like the way we worshipped or the style of preaching.
So true.
Or what some Christians said or did, in politics. And it's like, it's fine. It's like a lot of things are up for grabs and whatever. But if you trip over that as if that's God or if that's fundamental, then that's when it becomes a problem.
I think that comes back to me. I'm constantly reframing at the moment. I feel like I'm in this season of what's fruit, like the fruit of the Spirit, the fruit of the kingdom, or being a Christian, and what's results. Because how do you have the fruit of the Spirit while you're failing?
Yeah,
that's been a really interesting reconciliation for me, and that's caused me to come back to the fundamental bits, who is Christ. What does that mean?
So are you kind of saying there, in a way, are you questioning or reassessing what's it mean that God is good?
Yeah, I think that's
because
a great bumper sticker for it.
Because lots of bad stuff happens.
Yeah,
and a lot of people fall over that one, don't they?
So
if God's good, I'm getting bad stuff happen, and I see bad stuff, and why is there war? And
it's true.
It's a big one. It's one that you have to go through, or else you're not going to believe.
Yeah. And it also draws you nearer to the nature of God. The more I constantly question that and allow God to search my heart, and me kind of go deep into His heart and His nature, the more I get to know about Him. And what
that's
that
really
means.
good. That's really good. Well, we'd love to hear from you guys. Please comment on that. Ask us questions. What is there something you're deconstructing or doubting, or something, if you're not a believer, something you do doubt about Christianity? We'd love to hear that.
Yeah.
And understand that. So
I think a key statement that I've been thinking about. Sorry if we've gone over time here. I've just blown our. No, but a key statement that I've been thinking about, even doing this podcast, is what bits look Christian versus what bits are I'm a son, or I'm a follower of Christ.
Yeah.
I've had to come back to what am I feeding on.
Yeah, great.
Because especially when you get asked to talk about this stuff, it's very easy to talk about the bits that sound good, look good, and that even just preparing for this causes me to deconstruct. Well, what have I actually been feeding on?
It's powerful. It's great. Can we move on?
We've gone 30 seconds overboard, so I apologise.
Well, it's your section now, mate. So this is the Bradley Smith.
We're cutting in.
Whatever section. No, the idea of this is, what's going on now, right now? What's your average bloke? What's your average Aussie thinking about, looking at, consuming. So what have you got for us today?
Well, I know our viewers are above average.
That's
so I
true.
found it very difficult to. No, it's actually a good segment, I think, to throw over here to talk about some culturally relevant stuff. So I thought I'd start and do my research. I wanted to come really well prepared. What does Google say is trending for people Google in Australia? I did blokes because I thought, So what is the average 35-year-old bloke searching on Google in Australia? And number one, you'd be happy with Premier League.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So apparently that's
good. Well, my team, Manchester United's not doing very well.
Oh, really? Well, yeah. Apparently that's a sport, this soccer thing.
Football. It's really global game, football.
Number two, interestingly enough, was a blog about the oldest person alive. Allegedly the oldest person passed away recently.
Oh, really?
119. Fun fact. So
do you have a name for us, or?
No, I didn't read the blog. I was sure it would have been longer than 119. Anyway, I'm planning on outdoing that. What have I got here? Third was Elon Musk.
Oh, yeah.
Big move. So we might talk
he's
about
everywhere
that.
At the moment,
yeah,
isn't he?
You can't talk to you can't talk to anyone who does the internet without talking about him at the moment, so we might unpack that. And then fourth was the Nets, the basketball team. Team.
Okay.
I think they might be failing, but anyway, lots of sports there.
Yeah.
Nothing deep.
Okay. Maybe tell us about Elon Musk. What's going on there?
Yeah, it's a pretty interesting one. I've followed from afar, so I'm on Twitter, but I'm not a user. I'm not addicted, but I am addicted to social media. So my wife would say I'm breaking that habit.
You should listen to some of my sermons.
I know. No, I've seen you with the sledgehammer.
I smashed a phone. Yeah, that's right.
And I've been having digital.
Do you want to smash that one?
Yeah,
I'll get you off social media.
I've been doing digital sunsets. That's hot tip. So I watched the sermon, broken phone. What are your thoughts on Elon?
Oh, I'm definitely not a close follower, not a Tesla driver yet. So no, but I think he's a I don't know, he's a bit of an enigma, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like it's a bit hard to put your finger on. But you've got to look at a guy like that and go, man, he's obviously very clever. Like you can't be doing the stuff he's doing, make the money he's making without having a decent IQ.
Yeah.
It's not an accident.
Yes, I think that's...
He's not a one-hit wonder.
And he's not a one-man band either. No. You don't do that on your own.
So you get all this crap on the internet and criticisms and that. It's like, personal attacks or whatever. But it's like, if a guy can make that much money and be that innovative and that influential, look, he's obviously clever. He's obviously a good leader.
Yeah.
To some degree.
Marketing expert. You got to give him that. Like...
Well, that's your area, so
I'd say marketing expert to get us talking about him on this show.
That's exactly right.
It's interesting. I mean, I watch Iron Man. I love Tony Stark. So who doesn't like a show like that? And Elon's positioned himself as Tony Stark. Really.
Yeah.
But a few interesting things. Firstly, I think it's a huge boss move to just go and buy a platform. Or you got to pay respect to anyone.
So has he actually bought it?
Yeah, gone through. It's,
wow. Wow. Is that like the first time a major social media platform's kind of changed hands?
Yeah. So it'd be interesting to see what he does with it. But a good. So as a business person, I look at that and think, man, that's a boss move.
That's a big move.
But then my mate, I was talking to him the other day, and he said, yeah, but didn't he ask the UN to give a budget for how to end world hunger with $6 billion? And apparently he got given the budget and didn't do it, so he bought Twitter instead. You might need to fact check that.
Maybe not with the $6 billion.
You definitely need to fact check that. But it's interesting. I think the guy's very interesting guy, and I really hope that he walks the fine line of reinstating free speech versus censorship. Because we don't want people to be getting trolley loads of misinformation and getting bullied and stuff online, but I think the censorship has caused more damage than that. That's my personal view.
It'd be interesting to see what he does.
So I'm watching that part of it really closely, and good lessons to be learned.
It's good. Got anything else for us in your...
Yeah, at work, I'm trying to up standards.
Okay.
So that's a big thing for us at the moment. We've come through a season of crisis at work.
Yep.
And as a small business owner, I've had to really knuckle down to turnaround mode, crisis management mode, and drive profitability. So a lot of navigating that, I couldn't have done that without my faith and following Christ. That's incredible. But how we've got through. But now we're on the other side, and it's time to up standards.
Yeah.
And I think it might be harder.
Yeah.
We've just navigated
So
through.
easier to survive a crisis than
Man,
to improve
you got nothing to lose.
standards. Yeah,
when
it's
you're
true.
back against the wall,
It's survival, isn't
everything's
it?
been taken, survival. It's quite easy to be courageous.
Yeah,
That's why
it's a good
I
point.
led in with the Elon Musk move, because he's taken a massive risk on the back of success.
Yeah.
Much harder than on the back of crisis, which I've had to do.
True.
Now I'm trying to break a cycle, which is increase our standards for the sake of, excellence, doing things better, stewarding what we've got. And man, it's hard. And the more I think about it, and I was reflecting for the show, I thought, we're doing that at work, but we're constantly doing that in our lives. And I talk to my mates, and pretty much everyone's either saving for a house, renovating a house, selling or buying a new house. My wife wants a bigger house. Or we're constantly trying to up our standards, and it's hard to break the cycle.
I can have a chat to Madeline if that would help.
If you could teach
some
her
marriage counselling.
She watched the Minimalist show, and she wants a bigger house. So.
Mate, she's got to have more babies. If you've got to have more babies, you want a bigger house.
They're on the way. So. No, it's interesting. So my question for you is, we all walk this line of the tension of where we are versus what we want. And I think this is somewhere where the Christian worldview, firstly, and then as your faith comes on and you believe in Christ, that it's an incredible advantage to deal with the tension of our ambitions and our desires against the frictions of and realities of where we are. Do you have anything?
Well, the Christian faith is interesting because it's 100% about excellence, best practice, no corruption, be better, refine, improve. That's 100% the Christian message. But then on the other side of the coin is show grace, show mercy, inclusivity, tolerate weakness, help the unlovely, the weak, the poor. Which is a funny dichotomy, because for us it's a hard thing to get our head around. It's why we need God. In John 1 it says that Jesus came full of truth but full of grace. And sometimes usually most people are better at one or the other. You're either good at truth and standards and we should, or you're good at like mercy and we shouldn't and we should, but Jesus was full 100% of both. And so how do you do that? Like, how do you do best practice and standards, but then also understand people and be a great boss and give people a fair go and give them a break and
do excellence but not go broke.
Yeah, exactly right.
I've got to produce results as well.
Exactly right. So there's got to be a line of standard or whatever, and I think that's really tough. I think that when talking leadership, and that's what we talk a lot about on this show, is that is a balance, and it's a fine line. I don't like the word balance very much, but it is a bit of an act of
tightrope.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tightrope. Yeah, I think you need both.
Yeah,
I think you've got to have both, and it's not about one or the other. It's about one or the other at a certain time.
Yeah.
So it's not that we're all excellence, and because then you just churn and burn people, don't you?
Yeah.
We're going to have to scratch. Oh, here's someone who's better. Doesn't matter, you've been here for 10 years. This person's more competent.
Yeah.
And we know that doesn't work. But it's also not about like, oh, well, you're doing a rubbish job, but we'll pay you really well and we'll give you whatever time off you want. Yeah. So I think it's about timing. When's the time for excellence? When's the time for showing grace?
Yeah.
When's the time, like you're saying, to push to the next level? When's the time to, like for me with the church and this business corporation, like honestly, I think this year is going to be a messy year.
Yeah.
Like we are working on best practice and standards, but a lot of those things we're working on with our core group internally, with what we can control, but with the wider kind of congregation and that, it's very loose. And it's just a year of like, it's going to be a bit messy coming out of COVID. Let's just show a lot of grace, a lot of unconditional love, give people time. That's where we're at as an organisation. So we're doing both, but with different groups, the core group versus the big group.
I think that's the message of like the take home that I get from becoming a Christian in a world where I'm forced to be a leader, even though sometimes I want to escape from that. Is that you have to be able to be both. You have, like in almost every element of the kingdom, you have to be able to see like truth, grace, strength, humility. It's multidimensional. And I think for me, the big thing that I've been feeding on is that we lean on a scripture that says, seek first my kingdom. And like I've been forced to put my trust in God in him and who he is and what he is and where he's called me to be, and let things come together as I perform and execute. And
Well, I think, like I was saying with the timing, I think you get it wrong when your motive's wrong. So you want best practice and standards, but if your motive is wrong, or your method is, I'm going to use my strength, I think I have superior IQ in this area, so I'm going to make everyone jump to this. Then I think you're off with your motive. Where, like you're saying there, I think part of being a follower of Jesus is that, like, what's more important that my motive is right as the boss than it is that I'm making someone do something because I can and they should. And I think that's really powerful, because then it allows you, your motive, there's a lot of yourself is taken out. So then you can see, this isn't a time to put a huge standard on this employee. They need a listening ear. They need some time off. If I show grace here, it's probably going to help them in their life rather than being concerned about the goal. But then someone else is like, nah, hey, you got to go to the next level. We need to have a talk. This is the right time. But also, even in that, even though it might be a bit confronting, you're not in there grinding the person. You know, like you're out of it, and this is best for them and the organisation. Very hard to get to. That's why I pray a lot.
I was about to say that is like, I've framed this up to say, as Christians, we have an advantage, and that's a confidence that we know that Christ is bringing all things to order. And
I hope so.
No,
I hope we have an advantage. It's, you know, it takes a lot to capitalise on that. Like, there's a lot of Christians who, you know, should act like this that don't, and like that's where humility is so important. It's like, man, we stuff it up a lot.
I think every individual would, like, I stuff it up often every day probably. So coming back to that promise and that confidence of what he said and what he's done.
It's really
interesting.
Good.
I like it. Well, so that's our chat. Really keen to hear if there's a tension that you're dealing with around that and how you deal with it. So I think for me, it's making sure that I never have my contentment robbed by my ambition.
Great,
and
I love that.
We've talked a bit about that on this leadership podcast, but I constantly come back to the things we lean on and the nature of God when I think about this stuff, because
I like that.
I'm incredibly ambitious. I expect to win, but I've been through a hell of a lot of losing.
So, Brad, I want to talk to you about our prayer series. We've been doing at church quickly, and a little bit about prayer. We called it Return to Prayer, because coming out of COVID, what I started to realise that a lot of people's spiritual life in the last couple of years have really disappeared, drifted, deteriorated. I mean, a lot of us just got lost in those 280 days of lockdown.
Don't remind me.
I'm sorry, we'll start shaking. And prayer is, obviously central to the Christian walk. It's really where we learn about God, and He learns about us, I suppose. It's a relationship building. Essentially, prayer is a fancy word for just talking to God or dialoguing with God. But the prayer series, we went a little bit different from what we've done before. We focused a lot on kind of contemplative prayer, if you like, things like meditation and silence, the spiritual disciplines, and it was really, really interesting. So, did anything stick out for you in particular during that series?
I love the multi-facets of prayer. Before, as a Christian, I loved meditation. I still meditate, it's just a bit different. I love thought, vision, that type of thing. So I love the different facets of prayer, especially the search my heart, O Lord. I love that. I think you called that examination prayer.
The prayer of examine.
The prayer of
He examines you, and
I think that was powerful. It's so easy to come back to prayer being requests, which is a part, like God wants to know and wants us to talk about all things. It says pray about all things, but it's good to be reminded of the different facets and the different type of prayer life we can build, and to be challenged a bit and stretched a bit. So,
well, it's interesting that was the one that stuck out to you, because that, I think, out of the whole series, I was like, man, this is the most confronting one, because the prayer of examine is really saying, God, creator of the universe, sees and knows all things. You already know stuff about me, but I'm going to pray in a way that I'm going to also be conscious to you looking into my heart and my life, and I'm going to be honest and authentic about what's going on. Examine me. Look deep into me. And it's pretty full on, because it's really the gaze of God kind of comes into that prayer time. And the first thing that's obviously is going to be obvious is the fact that He is perfect and pure and eternal, and we're weak and fallible and emotional and sinful and selfish, and so it's interesting that came up for you.
That one affected me the most because it was a spirit moment for me. I went home that night, didn't sit down and set out to do any homework or anything like that, but I just noticed, like, as I was sitting on the couch and as I was falling asleep, that I was allowing the Lord to examine me in different areas, and I realised there was areas that I was kind of holding on to, and I so naturally go into prayer of like, declaration, we're going to overcome in the future,
stuff
and like, let's go, and, or like, sorry God, and come back into alignment. Like, that's so easy, but to come back to like areas of my heart that I'm like, actually, I'm holding an anxiety here, or I'm holding a false desire here.
That's great.
I feel like I got to trust Him more.
Really,
I realised that I'm only holding on to it because I don't trust Him.
Yeah.
With that.
Really good. Well, the thing God's been hitting me with this year is a little bit similar in the sense that I'm like you. I think you take a bit of your personality and leadership and where you want to go, and sometimes that becomes a bit too much of your prayer life because it fits with your personality.
It's so hard to switch like this off.
Yeah. And there is elements of prayer that are about that. It's about going somewhere in the future, and you pray into what you want to see happen, and God probably wants that to happen too, and you feel like you've heard Him and He wants that. But then, and this is where this prayer series was a bit different, because it was more contemplative and reflective and those kind of prayers. But for me, the crazy one was, I really felt God say to me this year that success and breakthrough and all the good stuff would actually come via silence and stillness.
Yeah.
And so there's this whole element of prayer where you're just quiet. And so I've been putting on my timer on my phone and seeing how long I can just sit in silent prayer for. And I've only got up to about 3 minutes so far without like my brain going off somewhere or getting distracted, but just to be silent and still before God and meditate on Him and in that prayer for is really, really difficult. It goes against all the lifestyle that we live in, of hurry and rushing and grabbing and grasping. And so
I like it. Yeah, for me it was, I just felt so many things dissolve when I let Him examine me. I think that's, I was reflecting on what I'm feeding on. Like before I came on here, I was reflecting. I was like, I've really been feeding on that. Like those little areas that are quite deep that just needed, when I come to Him and hand them to Him, they just get dissolved and allow Him to examine why there's an anxiety or why there's an issue.
Very good. Very good. Very impressed. Very impressed. So I want to talk about something a bit different now.
Okay.
It's this great book that I read this year.
Okay.
Great. It's called Sleep. It's by Nick Littlehales.
It's like, as a marketer, that is not I don't go to the bookstore and think, awesome, I'm going to read like Sleep. Like I could get Win or 4-hour work week
or Sleep Less.
Sleep Less, yeah. Or Sleep Better.
That's right. Well, this is a bit about sleeping better. So Nick Littlehales is a sleep coach for athletes.
Wow.
And I actually had heard about him before because of my soccer obsession. No, he's English.
Yeah. Okay.
But he's worked with Manchester United and Real Madrid and some of the big soccer clubs.
Yeah.
And he's worked with the British Olympic team and things like that. So it's kind of started at that elite level to try and give athletes that 1%, 2%.
Yeah.
He's worked with Tour de France cyclists and all these kind of things. Fascinating. But what I realised reading this book is that great leaders have great sleep.
That's not a quote that you often hear about leadership.
No, because we pin great leadership to being able to do less sleep, do more with less, and it's interesting because the book makes so much sense when he frames it around an athlete, because no one would say a great athlete should sleep less and train more.
Yeah,
because we understand sleep in an athletic sense brings healing. Bring even emotional, mental stillness, heals the body, repairs it. But then we think as leaders or in business world, well, we don't need that, and I'll be mentally sharp, and I'll be emotionally sound, and I'll be physically awesome for like 50, 60 years. But it's just not true. It's actually going against science. So basically the synopsis of the book is that we should break down our whole day or week, but especially the nighttime hours, into 90-minute cycles. So he calls it the R90 method. So recovery is the R, and then 90-minute cycles, because that's how long a sleep cycle is.
Yeah, interesting.
So you go down through your through your REM sleep, and then you get into your deep sleep. And it's actually your deep sleep, which we only have per cycle. We actually only have 5 to 8 minutes of that actually repairs us, heals our muscles, heals our body, renews the cells we've lost, ready for the next day. So a lot of people don't get down to that depth of sleep, or they might only get 2 or 3 cycles a night, and they might need 4 or 5. So, but then it's interesting because outside of the sleeping hours, he actually talks about a 90-minute sleep preparation routine and even a 90-minute wake routine, kind of either side of that.
How many hours does the pre, like the warm-up, the sleep, and then the warm down?
So, 90-minute cycle. So 90-minute either side, he talks about, is really important. And you think about the morning one, it makes sense because you need sunlight to set off your melatonin to wake you up. So, and that 90-minute cycle to get the sunlight, to wake, to eat, is actually going to put you in a great position to, to perform.
Yeah.
But a lot of people rush into that or get up, grab an apple, rush out the door to work, into a meeting, they're not even awake properly. So a lot of really, really interesting. But what I realised is I need 5 cycles a night, which is about 7.5 hours sleep.
Yeah.
So I've totally changed my sleep routine. I changed my pillow.
Wow.
I bought new bedding. I've changed the side I sleep on. I'd always sleep on the right side. He actually suggests sleeping on your non-dominant side. So for me, that's the lesson.
You sound like a cyclist who reads a book and goes and buys all the gear.
I did, exactly right. I bought a cushion topper for my bed because my bed was a bit hard. So the angles of how my head was on the pillow wasn't right. It's actually improved my neck a lot. It's had neck issues. But after all of that, and then we're going to hear about how you sleep.
I'm taking it all in here.
Are you going to read the book now?
I don't need to now.
But after all of that, for me, the reason I got there, this is probably the leadership bit. The reason I got there is because I actually wanted to pray better. Yeah. I want to be a better dad. It wasn't just about like performance. I want to perform. I want to be an awesome leader. It was actually about I want to be a better dad, more switched on at work, performing better as a father, praying better.
Yeah.
And I like to pray in the morning, so I needed a routine that would actually support that.
Yeah.
And I realised that so much of being awesome today is actually about how you prepare the day before.
So true. Makes sense.
And sleep is that final preparation for the next day.
Yeah.
So I've had a real, as you can probably hear, I've had a real kind of revolution or reformation of, I suppose, my value of sleep. And as a lot of things, it's just really come through education. Like I've read the book, it's educated me.
Yeah.
And because I understand more, then I can either, pretend it doesn't exist, ignore it, pretend I'm, as we do as humans, I'm unique.
Yeah.
That doesn't really apply to me because I don't really want to change. Or I can embrace it. So I really embraced it, and it's been quite amazing. I feel fresher, more on top, more able to do what I can do. I feel like my days can be super full because then my night routine's really good. So.
Man, I like it. It's actually really inspiring. I saw this on the run sheet, and I was going to cheat and watch the summary video, but I think this is better video because you're passionate about it, and it's true. Like, I like to start my morning on, so wake up and pray, or go to the gym first, one of the two. Yeah. And recently, I've been going to the gym first because it forces me to wake up and trying to implement some digital sunsets. But man, my sleep is
What's digital sunsets exactly? Explain that.
So turn the phone off at a certain time.
Okay.
Really hard.
Yeah.
And
so with my night routine, I want to be asleep by 11.
Yeah.
So that means 9:30 to 11 is that 90 minute.
Yeah.
So from 9:30, I don't look at my phone. Yeah. I don't watch TV. I don't eat. I don't drink.
What do you do?
Well, I read usually.
Yeah. You eliminated everything.
Well, amazingly, changing the routine, all of a sudden I'm smashing through books. I read, talk to my wife.
Madeline's watching this.
Resuscitate a bit.
Yeah.
But the 90 minutes goes pretty quick. Because once you do, you brush your teeth and muck around or do whatever, have a shower. But yeah, even that, I turn off all the main lights, So even that, just by the time I'm ready to sleep, I'm gone in a minute. And literally.
I'm interested to hear in this, do you find that you're active in your sleep? Like you dream, do you move?
I don't dream much.
Or are you out?
I'm pretty out, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. It's been. I think I've never done the sleep apps or measurements or whatever, but I think I'm getting down and having better quality deep sleep, which is the one that repairs you. The good thing is too, like I found, I just don't need to sleep in. The whole kind of, I suppose, lie of I need to sleep. And he really addresses that in the book. I need to sleep in. I was up late last night. What he says is, if you usually go to bed at 11 and you have a late night out drinking or partying or going out for dinner.
Sound like a wild pasta.
He's like, just come home and go to bed at 12:30. So you actually go to bed 90 minutes later.
So you stick in the...
Yeah. And then he said, you just catch up on that 90-minute cycle later in the week.
Yeah.
Or even in a nap. So maybe the next night you go to bed 90 minutes earlier or sleep in 90 minutes more, but you keep it in the cycles because you don't want to go down into the cycle. What we usually do is we put the alarm on the time we need to be at work. You could be in your deep sleep, your most high quality sleep, and your alarm's going off. So it's actually trying to time when you're going to be naturally coming out of sleep as well, and how many cycles you need. He talks about this one girl in the book where she only needed 3 cycles a night. So that's like 4.5 hours.
I hope that's me.
But there's lots of flexibility in it. So, yeah, obviously, as you can hear, I should do a little video on it. Cause
you should. Well, I think this is
an
inspiration for us. I'm going to think more about my sleep. For me, I think the take-home is the setup and the wake-up.
Yes.
I think as someone who, like you said, wants to be better at things and do more and get more out of the day, the 90-minute calm down and have a good routine there, that's always getting robbed.
Yeah.
Facebook Marketplace, that's always a bargain.
You are obsessed with social media.
That's got to be turned off.
I'm not really on social media anymore, so I don't know what you social media types are like.
My wife's the same, but no, I like it. So thanks for the inspiration. Thanks for summarising the book.
No problems. So my leadership lesson of the month, to finish us off, is related to the sleep. So the leadership lesson of the month is preparation precedes execution.
Beautiful.
Do you like that?
I like that a lot.
Preparation precedes execution. So like with the sleep, if you want to sleep well, you've got to prepare that 90 minutes or even the day before preparing, getting ready to sleep. And even in the morning, the routine is the same, preparing myself the night before with lunch packed and things ready so I can wake up and do my routine in the morning. So, but it applies in many other areas in life. Preparation precedes execution. As leaders, the big challenge is we skim, we shoot from the hip, we think we're so smart and get away with it. And sometimes we can. We know that preparation often produces more excellence, but I think there's something better than just excellence as well. It's actually about being authentic, being deep. When we prepare, when we talk and open our mouths, deep things come out because we're well prepared. When we do things at work, when we lead, when we enter certain meetings, when we're prepared, there's quality, there's wisdom, there's patience. So I think, but it doesn't really fit well with modern life, does it? Because it's fast, it's hurry, it's rushing, grabbing, competing. But preparation precedes execution. If you want to execute well. That's my leadership lesson of the month.
Sleep precedes success.
Oh, I like it.
That's my only contribution.
We should stop. It's too good. Well, thanks for your time today, mate.
Loved it. Thank you.
It's been great. The inaugural. Yeah. Thank you, guys.
Yeah.
Comments?
Get on it. We'll be commenting back. And also, like, we love to hear. We love anything you want us to discuss or any thoughts.
Topics would be cool. Any topic suggestions. So, thank you for joining us today on the Leadership Lessons show.